Welcome to Pay Attention, a podcast guiding you from the chaos of the mind to the clarity of the heart. Here's your host, Holly McNEILL.
Hey, hello, and welcome. I am super excited to be here today. I've got this amazing guest, and to be honest, I actually pulled this podcast a little bit forward from my stack of guests that I've recorded in the studio. And I'm not going to introduce her too much because it's all going to come together soon enough. But today I have Dr. Margaret Arnd-Caddigan. Margaret, I'm so glad you could be here live with us today.
Oh, thank you. It's a delight to be here. Thanks.
Yes, we have met a couple of times, and you'll hear in the recording her referencing another one of our episodes. And I'm excited to say I'm going to bring that episode to you next week. So if you're listening and you're excited to see what she's referring to, tune in next week. Margaret and I met in the studio. Boy, I don't know how long ago it was now. And she is the author of Embracing the Paranormal. And without further ado, we're going to take you to that recording. We will be live here. So if you have any questions or comments, go ahead and put those in the chat and we will answer those at the end. And otherwise, sit back and enjoy. Thanks, Margaret. And we'll talk to you afterwards.
Good deal.
Hi, this is Holly McNEILL. Welcome to another episode of Pay Attention. Just recently, in my last podcast, actually, I was introduced to this quote by Albert Einstein. All religions, arts, and sciences are branches of the same tree. And I just love that because we've been talking to people about the crossroads between science and mindfulness and psychedelics and paying attention and Buddhism, and it just all of these branches point back to truly the freedom and peace of who you are. And today I'm super excited to talk to someone about another crossroads that maybe you won't even know about. And that's the crossroads between paranormal experiences and spirituality and science and understanding. So welcome to the podcast, Margaret Arnd-Caddigan. She was telling me how when she was teaching, her students used to call her Dr. Mac because her name is a challenge to pronounce. So wonderful. Welcome, Margaret. Did you want me to call you Dr. Arnd-Caddigan?
No, please call me Margaret.
Margaret, you're tired.
If you don't mind, I want to jump right in because I want to reference your interview with Cheyenne Moore and say that interview was right on target with what we're talking about.
I will tell her that. Isn't she amazing?
Yes.
And thank you for checking in on that. And thank you for listening to that. She's so young and so gets it. So, maybe we could do one together, the three of us. Wouldn't that be great?
Cool. I'm in.
All right. Well, tell us a little bit about yourself before we get into this amazing, exciting experience about embracing your new book, Embracing the Paranormal.
Sure. Well, long ago and far away, I started on a doctorate in the history of religions. And I was studying, at that time, we were kind of calling it the intersection of magic and religion. Since I left that program due to a trauma. And so I was studying the mind. If you're looking at the intersection of religion and magic, you're talking about the mind. And I think probably in part because that whole experience ended because of a trauma, I decided I would become a therapist, that I would continue to study the mind by doing therapy. And as a matter of fact, became a trauma therapist. And then I decided to get a doctorate in clinical social work and teach other people how to be therapists. And so the intersection of religion, spirituality, and therapy has always been important to me. And it always comes down to what is the nature of the human mind? And specifically as a therapist, when the human mind is ailing, how can we help people restore a healthy mind? And so always interested in this, and came upon the paranormal, came upon parapsychology. Now, Dean Radin will tell you right away, he has said famously in books that he's written, that paranormal experiences are spiritual experiences.
Yes. When we first started talking about this, it was like, yeah, yes, of course they are.
Yes. And this is why I referenced your guest Cheyenne, because when she talked about her spiritual awakening, she talked about how disorienting it was. And a lot of people who have spiritual awakenings can't go to the people they love as she did.
Right.
Don't get support, get the opposite of that, get told it's the devil, or get told that they have a mental illness. And unfortunately, if they go to some therapists, that whole mental illness line is going to be pushed on them. So what I did is I did some research and I said, hey, you therapists out there who are actually engaging with the people who are having these experiences, what are you doing? How are you doing it? What's going on there? And so my book is the answers that they gave me for how do I help people learn how to turn these experiences into, and the word that came from two of my participants in my research, how do we turn them into superpowers? How do we help them settle into that? Yeah. As I was writing the book, it occurred, well, a friend of mine said to me, when I first got my first channeling mediumship experience, I wish this book had been available to me.
Yeah.
So, and then as I'm writing it, it seems like there are people who are not therapists, who are coaches, who are spiritual leaders, spiritual guides, who are lots of other people who might be able to use some of this material to help people that they're working with. So I opened it up and I said, embracing the paranormal for both experiencers and their helpers, whoever they are.
I love that. I love that. And you already answered my question. I was going to say, what is it from Cheyenne's interview that really sparked you? And it is that disorientation, that just paranormal experiences and the relationship with spirituality is so tragically misunderstood. Right? Diagnosed as mental illness or evil, right? And taboo. I've talked about this before. If you can't see it, it can't be real. But, when we first started talking, I really started to understand or to believe, and it makes total sense that, those people that have these types of experiences are way more open to the energies, more empathic, right? Then maybe they know or understand and aren't ever taught on how to deal with it.
That's absolutely right. These experiences started in spiritual and religious contexts, and they were either an indication that you were in harmony with the divine, or they were a call to get into harmony with the divine.
Right. But sometimes I guess they're very intense for people, and they're diagnosed as schizophrenia and other things, and people that just don't understand what's coming through.
Right. And what's interesting is when you look at the research and you do a deep dive, you begin to see there are very clear distinctions between people who have these experiences, who are healthy people, who might benefit from learning how to deal with the experience, but don't have a mental illness. There's even a category called benign schizotropy, which
benign
bothers me.
That's almost as hard,
because like if you have a benign tumor, like yay, you don't have cancer, but ooh, still have a tumor. So I kind of, but what they have found is that people with this benign schizotropy are actually happier. They are actually more creative. They are actually more vital people than the norm. And so one would want to have benign schizotropy.
Yeah, it's not a bad thing. It's almost as hard to pronounce as your last name, but So what I'm hoping, and here's her book, Embracing the Paranormal, and we'll have links for it later. And what I'm hoping to get across in this podcast is, if you're out there and you're scared or you're having these experiences, it's not that you're evil or potentially, there isn't that mental illness. There's an openness that you just don't know about. For a lot of people, it takes, I mean, that's what mindfulness is all about. People wanting to get this benign schizology or whatever. We would have a better name for the spiritual awakening, right? And people get so, most people are so lost and so stuck and entangled in their thoughts and patterns. They think that's real and that there's nothing else. And the problem is, a majority of people feel that way. So for those people that are more open and are experiencing what is the energy of the universe and what is kind of the culmination of all consciousness, and it's coming through, and all these people are saying, oh, there's something majorly wrong with you. But you know what? Take a breath. Maybe there isn't. And you had said at one point, paranormal, parapsychology, and spirituality were much more bound together. Is that right?
Absolutely. When we look at the history of religions, we see that in all the animistic traditions, up through Hermeticism and all of the esoteric iterations of Hermeticism, and certainly when we look at Eastern psychology / spirituality, it's about your mind.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes. How the mind works.
And your mind encompasses psychology and religion.
Right. And experience. Right. That is true. Religion, spirituality, Buddhism is all about the mind, right? Yes. All about how, everything is mind. Everything comes from mind. Everything is of mind. Nothing exists outside the mind. And yet, like you said, they separated parapsychologists to be more normalized, to be more accepted.
Right. So it's interesting in the history of parapsychology, when the Society for Psychical Research began at the turn of the 19th century to the 20th century, they were studying a religion. They were studying spiritualism. Yeah. They were studying the claims of the members of this religion who were mediums, who were channeling, and also had clairs and precognition and telepathy and those things. So then when J.B. Rhine over in the United States at Duke University started his lab to study it, he wanted to get rid of the metaphysical context completely. He said, no, we're going to be a science, right? And science means matter, right? So we're going to look at this human experience, and we are not going to deal with any metaphysical aspect of it at all.
That is such a disservice. That is such an amazing disservice. And I've talked about it before. It's like living your life without that inside connection is like trying to navigate with half a map. Right. It's like you're not even paying attention to a major part of you that is, part of co-creating your life. Right.
Right.
And it's so unfortunate. And thankfully, things come back around, and here you are trying to patch that all back together. And it's not even really about, healing. It's not like people have to be healed from this connection, right? It should be celebrated. And really, it's just a matter of them learning to tune into it, to understand it, to use their mind, to channel it. Like you said, channelers and mediums, they were called witches and burned at the stake and all of that stuff. So how do we start to embrace all this? How do you start to turn around such a huge, ocean liner heading one way, and how do you start to open up?
I think it's good to kind of get into the weeds on the research, because the research will tell you that a lot of people, there's a very high correlation between people who have experienced trauma and people who have paranormal experiences.
Okay.
That doesn't mean that paranormal experience is tainted. What it means is paranormal experiences often come through when there's a need. The universe intervenes to help you.
Absolutely.
And so children who are like, I need to know if it's safe to walk into that room or not.
Right.
Get help from the universe.
That is amazing.
And so if we teach people how to separate their ability from its early beginnings
Yeah.
in trauma,
Mm-hmm.
then we can help them gain some control over it, gain some mastery over it.
Not just
One of the
control
big,
mastery, but use it to channel and to send, to transmute. And it's
right.
totally amazing what you're saying, that you connect that back to trauma, because when we were kids, and 80% of us have trauma, little t or big T, and we create these coping mechanisms to deal with it. Sometimes we talk about fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. But what you're saying is that this is another type of coping mechanism that the universe provides for you, and that it's really, once you get past the trauma and you're in a safe place, I guess you have to recognize the safeness of it, right?
Yeah.
That it's coming to your aid, and become more attuned to it rather than fearing it.
Sure.
Yeah, that is amazing. And it is too bad that people have to hit trauma. I mean, I hit a very low point, and it took me a long time, a lot of crawling, out of these negative feelings and patterns, to even get to the point where I am more open, where I am more aware and kind of alert and awakened, whatever you want to call it. But then there's people that have that naturally, and they've been shamed for it.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. The other trauma I want to add there is that sometimes the experience itself can be accompanied by trauma. For example, I had one participant tell me about a client who had a precognition. She typically had precognitions that people were going to be hurt or die. That's already hard. She had a precognition that her best friend's boyfriend was going to try to kill her best friend. So she went over there to try to stop it, and she was almost murdered in the melee. So how do we help her look at her precognition as a gift?
Yeah, that's, what, you're absolutely right. And I by no means meant to belittle this, but the reason it's shown as illness and evil is because it can become in very intensely, and it can be very scary and frightening. So
Yes.
how do you help people deal with that precognition? So precognition, for the listeners, is just seeing something before it happens. Right?
Yeah. The most important thing we do is help them what we call gate it. That's a term. Everybody's like, well, it means exactly how it sounds. It's a gate. You can open it and close it. You can make a decision like, now is the time that I am allowing precognitions to come to me. And it's not going to come to me when I'm in the grocery store at the checkout lane. And so you learn, and then you learn boundaries. What are your responsibilities? Just because you know something, are you responsible for it? And we see this with empaths a lot. It's like, I know that you're hurting, and somehow I feel like because I know you're hurting, I have to take care of you. It's like, no, you can let that information go right by. You don't really need to act on that every single time. And so helping people understand what their boundaries are, what their level of responsibility is, as well as gating the experience, are two of the biggest kind of key things we want to help people do. Beyond that, what we see is that people who have had these experiences and don't know what they are and haven't been schooled in the fact that it could be a gift often have a very low self-esteem, a very poor sense of self. And so what we find is that helping build this person's sense of self, build their trust in their self, build their trust in that inner voice, starts to become an important part of that healing process as well.
So it really, the mind is very powerful. So even if we have this gift, if we want to call it this illness, this evil, this empathic abilities, whether you have it or not, you choose. You create the world that you see. And I'm just recently realizing, and even being able to say it out loud, is that I am extremely empathic. And now that I know it, I look back on my childhood, on even my 20-year journey of trying to, and all I had to unravel to understand it, and just the intensities of everything that would come to me, and you had said people feel like they're responsible for. I'm just understanding it is, first of all, very helpful, and to everyone out there, if you've got something going on, it could be that you're empathic, you've got this precognition, but you have a choice. It's not something it's something you can hone. And because I have done all my work in mindfulness and paying attention, I can now take all those energies that come in, transmute them, and send them out in love and compassion to the world, right? And in doing so, those people out there that feel like maybe they're and it comes along with low self-esteem, right? I had very low self-esteem. I had to crawl my way out of this. But wow, listen to what Dr. Mack is telling you there, and in your mind, you can take that, you can learn to, befriend it and be open to it, to tune it, fine tune it for your own happiness. And then eventually, if this is something you wish, use it to enlighten or awaken the world. It's really something.
And I'd like to add to that when it comes to an empath particularly, it's very difficult for people to understand what is mine and what is not mine.
Yeah.
Is that my anxiety?
Yeah.
Or is that somebody else's? And so helping people differentiate between, in a different book that I wrote, differentiating between what I called exogenous and endogenous feelings, like which are mine and which are feelings that I'm contaging from somebody else, because you're going to process them in different ways. You're going to metabolize those feelings in different ways.
And actually, I've been thinking about that, and we, again, could have a whole other conversation on empaths. But ultimately, there's the feelings that come from your own thinking, and then there's the feelings that just come roaring in. And so for me, and again, I'm grateful for my journey and the fact that I had to go through all of this before this huge light bulb came on. I talked to my hairdresser. He comes over here every 8 weeks. He's amazing. We love each other. And I said, I think I'm empathic. And he looked at me like, yeah, of course you are. But on the other hand, in the bigger picture, what I've realized is whether they're my own feelings or coming from the collective, we are all a collective, right? There is ultimately in spirituality, in awakening, no Holly. I mean, the wisdom that understanding, that consciousness was here long before I was named Holly, So ultimately, the energy you're feeling, whatever you're giving out to that collective. And so when people are labeled as evil or ill, it just adds to that collective understanding. So, good for you, Margaret, for I know you're retired now from teaching, but you're like, I think in our initial call, you're like, I have the time and space, and this is something I want to get out there. So good for you.
Yeah. And I have a little podcast myself with my daughter, my co-host, where we explore these topics. And lately, people have been coming to me and asking me, will I help them with kind of neo-hermetic training exercises? And so I might be doing that when I grow up.
Yeah. I don't know what neo-hermetic means. Is that more kind of spiritual, more paranormal?
Yeah. Hermeticism was a spiritual system in ancient Greece, ancient Egypt, and it evolved and it changed and it grew up and became neo-paganism. And it became,
Margaret, you are it. Dr. Mack is going to bring that back. I love that. So for the listener, someone out there, they're listening to this and they're like, oh my God, this is me. Oh my God. What do you suggest? I mean, obviously they can reach out to you, but what's a tip or something? Or if that all of a sudden there's this big light bulb that comes on, what can you tell somebody like that who's listening?
First and foremost, always most basic, start a meditation practice.
Yes.
And I'm not talking mindfulness. I'm talking find out, feel for yourself your connection with oneness.
Right.
There are a million ways to connect. People say, oh, I can't meditate. My mind is all over the place. first of all, a quiet mind is not a prerequisite for meditation. It's the result of meditation.
Excellent. Excellent. I love
Second
that.
of
Is that
all,
your own quote? That's a beautiful
no,
quote.
no, I wish. I can't say where it came from, but I've heard it repeatedly.
All right.
But there are so many ways to meditate.
Mm-hmm.
People don't know that, Greek philosophers were meditating.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a million ways to meditate. Find a practice that works for you. Start a practice.
Or even be open to a practice. And that is a perfect, tip. And the Greek or the Tibetan word gom for meditation simply means to become familiar with, right? Right. So if you've been having all these experiences and you've been scared and you've been pushing them away, maybe you're just wanting to understand them. That meditation, even 1 minute, 6 times a day, how I teach, right? Just, start to pay attention so that you can then see it rather than react from it. You can use it as a gift rather than trying to heal from something that might just be amazing for you.
Yeah. Yeah. And the other thing that I think the second thing right on the heels of that, they go together, is that this experience has meaning.
Yes.
Part of what is so
There's
distressing about it is that you can't discern the meaning right now.
Yeah.
So sit down in your meditation and ask yourself, what could be some meanings?
That's right.
What are some possibilities for what this means?
Mm-hmm. In the bigger picture, you're here on this human journey. You've got, your soul is evolving. There's something, everything is showing you something. And there's a big something there. So tell us the name. So this isn't your first book, Embracing the Paranormal. Tell us the name of your first book.
Well, I had 2 books on intuition. One I was a co-writer on, and the next one I wrote by myself. The first one was some research I did on how therapists use intuition in therapy.
Okay.
The second one was a more theoretical kind of treatment of intuition and developing intuition, and especially clinical intuition. Mm-hmm. And then my next book was on holistic psychotherapy, which is really a call for therapists to do bio-psycho-social, spiritual, energetic therapy.
Wow.
Let's treat the whole person. And that is actually the subject of this season of our podcast. We're having on a lot of therapists who actually incorporate alternative forms, spiritual forms, cool things into their therapy. They're using tarot, they're using Reiki, they're using astrology, they're channeling, they're going to consulting the Akashic records.
Wow, you are
just very cool stuff.
That is amazing. Wow. Yeah. You have done so much. And so tell us, and we could go on forever. We could have a whole discussion on Akashic records. We could have a whole intuition and therapy. That I'd love to have, maybe, definitely have you back. How do people get a hold of you? How do they find this podcast? What's the name of it?
The podcast is called Finding Our Minds, plural.
Okay.
It's on every platform.
Okay.
I know nothing about technology. My co-host is my producer, who is also my daughter, and knows all that stuff and does that. So yay. And then the way to find me is findingourminds@gmail.com.
Great. And we will put those, that's in the show notes. This has been a great conversation. Hopefully for some listeners out there, enlightening to, wow, maybe there's something more than illness or sickness here for me. Maybe there's light and hope and love and, not just a chance for happiness, but maybe you're really connected and you just don't know.
Yes.
So thank you. Yeah. Thank you, Margaret, Dr. Margaret Arnd-Caddigan. Yay. Thank you so much for joining us today. And the best of luck with your book and your podcast. It's a very, very important topic that I know a lot of people still think are taboo and shy away from. But, the more we talk about this, the more, we normalize it, the more people might be able to just really get some relief and, dare I say, healing from what they think they have and being open to maybe the gift.
Well, healing from the effect of other people.
Yes, there you go. That's what I was trying to say, right? There's this life is, I've had my share of trauma and, crawling out of it. And I don't, there's very little, there's like one only big thing I regret. And otherwise, I am on it. And it's really a great journey to be on. We are spiritual beings on this human journey. So thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you.
And
my pleasure. It was so much fun.
It was super fun. And I can just feel the energy coming through. And thank you, listeners. I hope you got as much out of this as I did. I was very much looking forward to doing this interview. Please, if you can get Margaret's book, Embracing the Paranormal. There's so much connection out there. We're all connected. So it could help you. It could help really open up a whole new world to find your way. Thank you. And I will see you on another episode of Pay Attention. Wow, Margaret. I just love listening to that again.
That was fun. Yeah.
It was fun to listen to it again. Actually, I'm going back to my own writing. I have a teaching memoir that I'm hoping to get out someday. And one of the premonitions of it is, why weren't we taught this stuff, right?
That's a great question.
Yeah. So much, our lives would be so much different if we only knew how the mind works, where we're living life from, and the fact that the universe is on our side, right?
Yes, that popped out at me during our conversation. The universe brings you what you need when you need it. And trusting that's taken me a long time.
Yeah, those people that have experiences and are labeled with mental illness or evil, or people fear it, you not only have to undo all of that, you then learn to trust it. It's kind of can be a long road. So thank you for putting your work out there. And I really hope people, if people heard that today and they've had those kind of experiences, then, they're meant to, because the universe, is always has your back. So anything else you want to leave people with before we sign off?
I just want to say thank you for the opportunity. And again, if you're out there and you're having experiences, I just really want to hold you in the light, because you're fine. You're fine.
I love it. You are fine. You're more than fine. You're amazing. You're connected. So, yeah. And if anyone out there, reach out to Margaret, or I do also have a class I teach twice a month called the Awareness Hub. And we go through all the way from being caught in the chaos of your mind, not being able to see, you don't know what you don't know, to finding that open space where those beautiful messages can come through. So reach out if you're interested in hearing more. Thank you, Margaret. And I almost forgot. We are going to play Cheyenne's episode next week. So you guys can get a direct understanding of what Margaret was talking about this week. And we did actually have the three of us come on, which we'll be playing down the road a little bit. So if this episode spoke to you, kind of stay tuned, watch or come back next week for sure. I hope to have Cheyenne on as well. And the three of us will join together, down the road a bit. So thank you, Margaret, for your time and your work.
My pleasure. Thank you. Thank you so much.
All right, everyone. Until next time.
Thanks for watching Pay Attention with Holly McNEILL. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. See you next week on Wednesday at 10 o'clock Pacific, 1 o'clock Eastern.